And welcome. This is Email and Coffee, and I'm your host, Joy Brooks. Today, we have Elliot Ross.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. And yourself?
Yes, I'm good. It's a really dark, miserable morning in London today. So very on brand for London weather. But apart from that, I'm good. I've got my cup of tea, so I'm happy.
Yes, it is Email and Coffee today in my Harley Davidson cup.
Nice.
Yes, I'm very cheery. It's peppermint mocha. It's in the season.
Cool.
And I've got my little guys here.
Guys,
yeah, I'm working it.
I've got my New York mug, so
you love New York.
I'll break out the New York mug for you.
It is early morning. It is Cyber Monday, and we're having a nor'easter today, so weather up.
Nice.
Well,
yeah, it's just
weather down.
We don't really have we do have weather, but most of the time it's just miserable weather. Like it's sort of foggy and like winter in London is not nice. Just a bit boring, really. But yeah.
I'm often reminded that the weather in the UK is very well in London or the UK. It's very similar to Washington State, where there's two seasons.
Yeah.
Rain and
night. Yes. That's it, pretty much. And
then you might have some snow and wet weather along with that, but it depends. It's either rainy or light out.
Yes, exactly. But then you do have, when it is good, it's really good. So it's quality, not quantity, when it comes to the UK.
Speaking of that,
yes.
I thought we'd talk a little bit, banter back and forth a little bit about things that we like, things that tend to trend, and things that just go belly up. So I've got a show called Fabs, and Fandangos.
Okay, cool. I'm up for this.
Why don't we talk about fads first? Things that are trending, things that seem to be cool and shiny. And one of those for me that everybody seems to like these days, is artificial intelligence, but everybody's talking about AMP. And while the concept is obviously brilliant, it poses itself as a security risk and a Google badge of honor, which we don't ever expect them to really carry around. Just Google's way of doing what Facebook is doing, which is basically listening to anything that you're doing and serving it up 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
So, there are more and more ESPs that are picking up AMP and allowing you to program. But what are your feelings about? I know you have feelings about AMP, but what are your fads right now?
Well, my thing with AMP is interesting, and it kind of is AMP, but there's a broader thing. My challenge with AMP is kind of conflicted, because as someone who my job is I basically have two jobs. I run an agency called Action Rocket. Action Rocket is an agency that focuses on creating the best email. So we do design and HTML, but also we do strategy, and increasingly we do broad CRM stuff. But part of that is using the best technology available, right? So AMP is an interesting technology, so we do use it. And the same with Taxi. Taxi is a tool that helps teams make email campaigns, so everyone can log in and do what they need to do and get to the point where they're making great email. And again, AMP is something that we support and we're interested in, right? Because people want to do it, or marketers want to do it. Now, the conflict I have is it best for our industry or not? And that's where I have some challenges. Like it is an interesting technology. Historically, I've worked in email for like a long time. I'm always a bit, actually, can I say my fad is when people say how long they've worked in email? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, a while. And I remember the times when we couldn't do anything and all we could do was serve up some text and an image. And to be honest, I remember the times when we could send a form to people in like 2005 or something. Um, but the problem I have with it is like the technology is great. It does push things along. It means that we can bring more interaction into the email, into the actual email, rather than getting people onto a website. And in theory, that's a good idea. However, it's at the cost of whether like you want to let Google see all of it, whether it's a play for Google to own the entire space. I know they've done some work around, like AMP is in theory an independent organization, but it was founded by Google or I'm not sure if it's founded or not, but it's heavily supported by Google and still is. But there is an ambiguity there that suggests that it's open source and things. Yeah, so I'm kind of challenged about that. Is it a play to basically own the inbox? And that's not necessarily like one of the great reasons why email is successful is because it's not owned by anyone in the way that you have to pay off Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn if you want to do ads on their platforms, and they decide how much it costs, you know, algorithmically, but they do. And email doesn't have that, and there's enough democracy, I suppose, to be able to keep the pricing in check and to keep success possible as well. So yeah, I'm conflicted about that. From a design perspective, though, it's great. Like you can do things that you weren't able to do before. Mm-hmm. You can do search results in an email, which is cool. My question is, like the phrase that gets pushed around a lot is it saves a click, and you can do it in the email rather than on a website. Now, you kind of have to think about what's email for, because really, if it's one click and we can get people to a better environment where they can do a lot more, then make people click. Mm-hmm. That's fine.
What you want to do, you want to get that information,
yeah,
what people are doing. Otherwise, you lose that information, and it's a show about nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing, well, that's key, right? And we run the risk of forgetting what email is for if we're not careful. So we go straight to the execution. So we say, right, book a flight. Here's how to book a flight. And we don't tell people why they want to book a flight in the first place.
And they come back later and it's a completely different flight.
Yeah, exactly. So if the place of email is to do the convincing and to get people excited and to do the marketing, you know, the actual brand building and plant the seed, then I don't see the problem in sending people to an execution engine on the site where they can actually book the flight. The risk is we forget about the marketing and we go straight to putting a massive form in our emails.
Yeah, we sometimes forget that marketing is about analysis and metrics. There's that awful part of marketing that people don't like. It's not just sales. Marketing is the vehicle for sales, but it's exactly. Also the metrics that understand what's going on behind the scenes. That's what marketers do. So
yeah, exactly.
Sell it and we just push it. We've lost it all. It's just fantastic, shiny thing here on
exactly.
And you know, it's exciting. There's no doubt about it. It's exciting and done well. It's brilliant and exciting. But is it email marketing?
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little like we've walked into the car dealership, the car showroom, and the guy has rocked up with a form straight away and said, "Right, you want to buy a car? Get on with it." Like, need to wander around for 10 minutes and sit in some cars and dream a bit first.
Exactly. Oh, so we just dashed that. So how about things that we really truly love? Truly love. What do you truly love? Things that are just absolutely fantastic and fabulous, or as I say, fantabulous.
Yeah. So I've got a couple. So one is, I guess, the opposite of that. So when people do marketing that is really just about getting a great message across, I really enjoy that. And there's always challenges. There's always reasons why it's not perfect, but sometimes you have to accept the kind of ruggedness and the non-perfectness of things. So a nice example recently was the PlayStation launch in the UK. So the PlayStation's got 4 different symbols on the buttons, and they went to Oxford Circus in London, which is in the middle of London, and there's 4 entrances to the Tube in London on Oxford Circus, and there's a sign with the iconic London Transport sign, the Vandal, and they replaced them all, or they replaced 3 of them. So they kept the one that's a circle, obviously, and then there's one that's an X, one that's a triangle, and one that's what's the other shape? Square. So I thought that was really interesting, just like classic bit of advertising. Obviously, in the pandemic at the moment, not many people are around Oxford Circus, but it got so much press, it got so much attention. Just a kind of old school bit of marketing, and obviously people knew, the fair amount of people knew that the PlayStation was coming out at that time anyway, but it did push people knew it was on the horizon, didn't necessarily notice that day. So I like that as a bit of activity, and those kind of ideas I think are really smart, and we need to make sure that they still happen. In email, that doesn't necessarily mean use all the shiny stuff. It means do a good message.
Right,
and
right.
if we don't spend the time thinking about the message, then that's what we risk. I mean, there's some other stuff that they did, like it was outside the Microsoft store, which I'm sure is a massive part of it as well. So the Microsoft store is on Oxford Circus, but also kind of as part of that as well, a growing trend, and we see it recently in various places, is marketing that stands for something. So you see brands increasingly aligning, like 2020, well, the last 4 or 5 years, the political situation in the world has been somewhat polarized. And there are also much larger issues that are probably above politics, so things like climate change and all sorts of things like that. And brands that look at those things and align themselves with that in some way, like sort of Patagonia and Lush in the UK and people like that, they have a purpose that's more than just sell you some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to sell you some stuff, but they're doing it in a responsible way.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I think that's something that we should kind of cherish, but also encourage, and also help brands as they feel their way through it, because there is a very cold, hard cash play. Like, we make it look like we're political so that we can make more money, but also, so yeah, it's easy to get wrong, but also brands are still people. People still work at companies. And if the people at Patagonia all care about that issue, then we should support them and help them be successful in that endeavor. So I think as long as it's genuine, it's something to be celebrated and something to be encouraged.
Yeah, those are treacherous waters indeed. When you decide to go one way or the other. In the States, there was Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
And
is it? And that's a hobby store, right? I was in.
It's Chick-fil-A.
There's another one. So I went to Kansas and it was right next to the hotel. There's like a hobby store that's like a anti. I think it was homosexual, maybe. But anyway, there's like a hard Christian hobby store.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, these are all mission statements on steroids, I suspect. And while in many cases people will polarize one way or the other, it can be very treacherous, especially in your email box. It could work terrifically for or against you instantly.
Yeah.
And then there are the greater humanitarian, I mean, if you decide to give your money to, save the elephants, who in the world would say, oh no, another elephant?
There will be someone. It's 2020.
Yeah, you're right. I guess. My
yes.
happens to be segmenting, because while a lot of people are talking about doing all of this personalization, which is such a that it's a buzzword. Again, personalization. What does that mean? Are you doing dynamic content? What are you doing? And segmenting is along the lines of personalization, because if you're really looking at your audience and you're beginning to, and you've got a mature audience, you've got a list, you're not just born yesterday, you're in the email marketing business for over 6 months, you've got a list that has been performing one way or another. You're able to create your personas. So you could create, depending on your business, you've got your VIPs, you've got your consumables, you've got your openers, your clickers, you've got a whole bunch of different people that are, buying different specific things that may need to be refilled, things that may be seasonal, things that may be, need to do all sorts of things. And there are a lot of things you could do with those audiences. While you may want to send messages every week, or, if you're in the case of Old Navy in the United States, you send it every day, sometimes twice a day.
I love their emails. They're 2 or 3 times a day often.
Yeah, and I don't mind. I don't mind. Do I see every single one of them? I see them come in. Do I read every one of them? Yeah. Do I delete them? Yeah. Do I unsubscribe? No. Because at some point in time, I'll be buying from Old Navy.
Yeah.
In any case, the segmenting, just the other day, it was, I'm looking for desks. And every email that I hit, that I started looking for desks, they started sending me emails about desks.
Nice.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I'm looking for desks. I don't need a sofa right now. And it's smart. It's just the way it is. So those are the smart segments, whether it's artificial intelligence or if it's somebody behind the scenes who's actually looking at the stats, glory be, looking at the stats and saying, you know what, over the past few months, here are trends that I've seen. Why don't we decide to do some sort of segmenting? Now, does that mean that everybody's getting emails about their clicks? Possibly. If they've got a robust system, if they're on one of the higher end ESPs, everybody's getting something specific. But you could also do it if you're in MailChimp. I mean, if you're not in such a high-end system, you just say to yourself, here's our list, here are our best performers, here's what we're going to do. Which sort of brings us into fandangos, which is sort of the opposite of the segmenting for me. The fandango is people just don't really understand email marketing. They're just doing it because it's marketing. They don't give it a chance. They don't strategize. The old term, they throw shit at the wall, and if it drips down one way, it works. If it drips another, it doesn't. And they continue that way, and they just don't listen to anything. And listen by me means you look at the metrics. It's talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, amen to that. Now, my challenge with that especially is do look at the metrics, but also understand what they are. Don't just read them and be very reactive to them.
Yeah, opens, everybody's opening this. Let's do this again. Which got better open rates in last November? Let's do that one again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, best way to get an amazing open rate is to put the worst swear word you can think of in the subject line, right? But you might not keep your job. So, is that success? Probably not.
That's another odd thing where a lot of people will be all about subject lines. It's not that it's not about the subject line. Not that it's not. But your brand, your sending address is clearly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So if if you have no brand name and it's coming from Bob, but it's actually a big brand, people say, who's Bob?
Yeah.
What? And then I can open. You could have a brilliant subject line, and they're still like, Bob? Who's Bob? I'm getting this email from Bob Delete. So it's really about, I call it the envelope. It's really about who it's coming from. That's going to get people to open it. Sometimes the subject line. Sometimes. If it's a really good subject line and it's from a brand, then they're going to remember, oh, this really great subject line came from this brand. But it's then, if they finally open, it's going to be the content. And that's what's going to get them to open again.
Yeah, and that's what builds the relationship, right? And ultimately, if you have a better relationship with someone in person as well as a brand, people look out for you more. And then that means that you don't need to do silly tricks in your subject lines.
Exactly.
You know, and all of the kind of, yeah, these techniques that are like, I love love's the wrong word. Hate like when people do like a add an exclamation point at the end of your email and you get 10% more conversions. Like, what the hell are you talking about? There are so many variables that could be at play for that. That's not advice. That's, you know, that's horrendous. But you see it passed off, you know, time and time again, and you see it at conferences and things. Like, there are some things that are good ideas to test, and for my money, one of them is things like putting an arrow on a call to action button. Seems to invoke a little bit more action, but you have to still make sure that whatever it is you're sending people to is actually useful, right, and interesting. Otherwise they'll just drop off on the next page and not like you.
Yeah,
because you've wasted their time. Yeah, I think my Fandango is similar, I guess. I was trying to work out the best way to say it, and I think it's letting the technique be the outcome. And what I mean by that is not thinking about what success actually is, just wanting to do a technique. So saying, yep, we'll do some personalization. Like, why? What's it going to do? Like, think about the problem you're trying to solve first, you know. And ultimately, the problem is probably we want to sell some stuff to some people, right? So it makes sense to get the right stuff in front of the right people. Like, that's probably the best way to do it. But it's a technique. It's a means to an end. It's not the end. And quite often as marketers, we do, you know, we go straight into, yeah, I want to do some of that because I've seen someone else do it, or it's the thing to do. You know, obviously we should split test. Why? What's the point there? Why should we split test? What are we actually trying to solve? And is the problem we're trying to solve actually done better by something else? You know, I love split testing, but you shouldn't just do it for the sake of it, you know.
And no, you have to carry it forth. You really do need to say, okay, we're going to split test for 3 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be this and that, and we're going to figure out which works in the end.
Yeah, and crucially identify what it is you're trying to find out at the start.
Exactly.
Like, you know, because otherwise you just get some results which you can't.
Which are okay, so you know, so like this as opposed to what?
Yeah, like you can't make any decisions based on them if you haven't. You know, you need a hypothesis. You need to think about what we're trying to solve, and also think about what you're trying to challenge as well. Like, I'm quite interested in when people do a split test. What preconceived, like if you didn't do a split test, what decision would you have made anyway? And was it the right decision? And then challenge yourself and work out, actually, let's test it and see. And then you can improve your intuition, basically. And then that's how you grow as a marketer, right? So,
in many cases, I see split tests are about 3 people that couldn't decide on the subject line.
Yeah, like that's
okay. So we'll split test. We'll use ours, and then we'll use the one that you know you wanted.
Exactly. So what's better there is to go and learn how to have a meeting better, right? To work out how you make your decisions better. Like, that's the problem you're solving there, not
exactly.
not anything to do with, you know, whether you actually do good marketing or not.
Well, it's difficult. It tends to be, you know, it tends to be. I've often seen people use that strategy over months.
Yeah.
You know, we can't decide on the subject line, so let's split it up.
Yeah.
The thing is, there may be something in that, but you just need to think about it before you throw it against the wall again. And
yeah, exactly.
And you know, as I said, the saddest thing that I see are people that purchase a list or don't give lead gen, any type of lead gen, any concept at all. Yeah, lead gen is difficult. It's more difficult getting the names than it is to do the email marketing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But you also need to make sure that they're qualified, right?
That's the problem. You know, it's getting those names, getting those customers, getting that loyalty that's going to give you the reputation, that's going to get the emails into people's inboxes, that are going to project you from your 3 month to 6 month to 9 month, and give you conversions, spread word of mouth, turn the process into a money-making machine that it really is.
Mm.
But if you don't pay attention to that list, if you don't use a number of different methods, and there are many different methods, and it really does depend on your business. You don't use those methods, you're going to shut down. You're going to have a tired list. It's going to churn in and out within 3 months. And then in 6 months, you're going to say, this email marketing doesn't work, or your agency doesn't work, or my team doesn't know what they're doing, and we have to outsource. So it's email marketing works. It works all by itself. Imagine what it would do if you knew what you were doing.
I like that. That's some tough love, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen people that literally give up on it, and that has always amazed me. But as I said, as it is. So with that, we've spent a good half hour talking about those fabs, and fandangos.
Yeah.
Elliot, where can we find you on the web?
In a few places, I guess. So Twitter, I'm on Twitter fairly often. I am Elliot on Twitter, 2 L's and 1 T for that. And then Instagram is email Elliot, again 2 L's and 1 T. And what else? I have a website. I should talk about my website. It's elliot-ross.co.uk. That has all my links on to various things. And then, there's links to Taxi and Action Rocket in there as well. So you can find out what they do. If you work in an email team, the chances are we can help you do your work better, do more email, do it quicker, do it to a larger audience, hit some scale, all that kind of stuff. So if you have any challenges, happy to.
Yeah, I've got a challenge. I need a workflow solution.
Yes, well, I can help you with that. So that's all good. And if I can't, I can point you in the right direction.
Well, it's been great having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been good.
And let's say, here's to 2020. Cheers.
Yes. Yeah, cheers.
May it end soon.
Yeah. To 2021, yeah. More of the same, probably, but we live in hope.
All right. Take care, everybody. That's Email and Coffee. Happy email marketing, you all.